Once again, back with another A Nerds podcast, and I'm happy to have this really cool dude that I hope it was cool to meet. Jesse Chapman, how you doing?
Good. How are you? Thank
Pretty
you for
good.
having me.
Oh, I thank you because I'm always grateful for anyone to come on the podcast to do anything, talk about anything, and I'm really grateful to have some wrestlers and some musicians and people to come on. So I always tell them up front, I don't want to ever to think that I'm not grateful to take time out of your day to at least we talk about anything. So I'm always grateful ahead.
It means a lot to me that you would want to have me on, especially as being basically my rookie year, and considering the big names that you've had on recently, like Mickey Knuckles and people like that. So
Yeah,
it's an honor.
yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, I'm very grateful because, everyone doesn't. A lot of people don't say yes, and I'm not. It don't hurt my feelings because my podcast is still small, roughly small, pretty much. I haven't been doing it very long. I've been doing it not even a year. So, in the beginning, it was just me, but somehow I lucked upon getting some people to come on. So, I mean, I'm gonna go back to the other format, from time to time. But if I can get people to come on, and it's more fun to have when you get to talk to people about their professions and what they do. And something, if you have love for anything you do, doesn't matter art, sports, music, whatever. I like to hear how they got to where they were. So, it for you, are you always been a fan of wrestling? Are you because you said you're a referee for something?
Yeah, I've been a fan pretty much my entire life, ever since I can remember. My dad got me into it when I was young. My dad and my brother, probably around '97 or so,
Okay.
and I've loved it ever since. There was a small period where I kind of fell out of it,
Yeah.
in high school
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
I'm too cool to watch wrestling, and then
Yeah.
I slowly got back into it. But
That's cool.
basically, it's been a huge part of my life, my entire life.
That's cool. Now, when you were a kid, who stood out for you as performers in the ring? Who stood out?
When I was a kid, I was a huge Triple H fan.
Okay, I can see that.
Like Triple H was the big one for me.
Okay.
I really enjoyed the Hardy Boys a
Hmm.
lot and the Dudley Boys. So I think I really kind of just loved tag team wrestling at the time.
Okay.
Um, but Triple H was like my big single star that I really, really loved growing
Okay.
up.
That's cool. Now, did you do sports, and what kind of sports did you do in school if you did them?
I didn't really do much sports. When I was a kid, I played in football rec league for a year.
Okay.
Wasn't super athletic really.
Yeah.
And then, but I enjoy sports.
Yeah.
Just something I wasn't very good at doing myself.
It's all good. Now, what promotion, if you have a promotion you work at, and it says you're a referee for it, um,
Mhm.
how did you become a referee? Let's put it away. How did you even get contacted in the promotion you got, and how did you get started? What was the origin of your start?
This one is kind of a long story, if
It's all
that's
good.
okay.
Yes, go ahead. Yes, go. Yeah, go ahead.
So, when I was in high school, and as I said before, I was going through that phase of kind of not being super into wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, it was like the height of the PG era, and I just really wasn't kind of feeling it, because I grew up in the Attitude Era, the
Yeah.
Ruthless Aggression era.
Yeah.
It was a very different product, and not to say it was bad, it just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And I had yet to really explore the indies to that point. And one day I'm just walking around in a bookstore, and I see a poster for an indie wrestling show on the wall. I asked my mom if I could go, and I ended up going. It ended up being like a regular at that specific company. It was called Flatline Pro Wrestling, and they ran in Georgia. And there were two wrestlers there that I really, really gravitated towards. And like I saw them work together, and it was like fucking magic for me. Like the magic was back. And their names were Ethan Case and Anthony Henry. And you might know Anthony Henry from Evolve, and he just signed to WWE.
Okay.
And like I've just been following their careers ever since, and like I saw them wrestle, and I was like, I have to do this. This is what I'm meant to do. So a little later in high school, I trained in quotation marks at this place that was really, really awful. And like they were, because at first I was training to wrestle, and like they were having me take bumps or take moves before I could take a bump properly. You know, it was just bad.
Yeah.
So I moved away from that, and then eventually, I'm just like working on these 9-to-5 jobs and haven't really pursued it again. Pursued wrestling again, and I see that Ethan Case, the guy that I watched wrestle Anthony Henry in the shows all that time back, he's opening a school called the Palmetto Wrestling Academy. And I was like, if that's not fucking great, like I don't know what is. Like this is
pretty cool.
Really full circle. And so this guy Cody Fluffman, who wrestles in the Southeast a lot, we were friends back then because we're around the same age, and we would go to these shows together. And he had already trained under Ethan at the school, and he was wrestling, and he got me in touch with Ethan, and we worked and got myself into a class. And so at first I was training to wrestle, and I got to a point to where I wasn't really enjoying that aspect of it. So I talked to Ethan about it, and he was like, well, let's try something different. And so he tried refereeing, and it just kind of clicked for me. I was just it felt right. I was having fun doing it, and I just happened to be really good at it. And so I kind of found my place inside of wrestling. But that's the story of how I ended up in Detroit.
That's cool, though. That's a cool story. I like that. Now, I always assume I know what referees do, but I really don't. I don't have an understanding like I think I do. And like, what is it? How when you switched over to become what you wanted to become? How did they train you to become a referee? What was the criteria of becoming a referee? I know it's different in indies and I'm sure in big productions, but I'm assuming the base is still the same.
For a long time, referees on the indies were just people like in the crowd or someone backstage who they put a referee shirt on and like, hey, you can count to 3. You've seen the stuff on TV, but we're kind of like transitioning away from that.
Okay.
To because like even Aubrey Edwards and from AEW, she said that she wants to open up her own school for referees.
That's cool, though.
And we have places like the school I trained at, the Palmetto Wrestling Academy, that train referees now, and which wasn't a thing back then. And so after I transitioned, it was just kind of a lot of like, we do matches in the school, and I would ref those matches like away from the public's eye and kind of learn as I went. With new refs that we bring into the school, which I'm lucky enough to be able to help train the new refs that are coming in now. I have a hand in that. So they learn to wrestle first because that is a huge aspect of it. But then you do drills and you with the students that are learning to wrestle, and you run matches, and it's just a lot of practice, a lot of repetition, a lot of getting those reps in and critiques in between, so you can correct and fine tune those small things.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, is this the first promotion, the one you're still working with? What is the name of? I didn't ever ask. What's the name of your promotion?
My home promotion is Palmetto Championship Wrestling.
Okay. So, like, do you can I look up on YouTube? Do you have any, shows that could be televised on YouTube at least, or anything? I mean,
you could probably find some stuff on YouTube. It might be older stuff.
That's cool. Regardless, I mean, that's all good.
And then I know for a while they were doing the whole. They're putting some shows up on the High Spots Network.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But at the moment, I don't think that there's one specific place where you can see a lot of like the newer shows, which is a real shame because I would say we're putting on some of the best shows in the Southeast right now.
That's all right though. I like that. Now you said you say this is your main one? You have other ones you go to, you work at, or is it this one?
So yeah, this is my main one, and PCW is like the school I trained at.
Mm-hmm.
PWA.
Okay.
They're affiliated.
Okay.
It's like you graduate from PWA and you work PCW.
Okay.
And I'm starting at Viral Pro Wrestling soon.
Okay.
I do a lot of stuff with PWX. I haven't actually gotten onto one of their shows yet, aside from like being like an extra and getting beat up on camera, things like that.
Okay.
But I think I'm pretty close to getting in with them. I've worked a long time to try to. What else? I've been an extra for New Japan.
You say you were actually in New Japan?
Yeah, one time. Back in February of last year.
Okay, what was that like? I mean, what is your? Because I don't really know how you become extra or anything. But how did you even obtain that to get to do that?
Like I said, I've been helping out with PWX for a while, just trying to get on their shows. And they actually have a working agreement with New Japan. So basically, when New Japan was doing their, I think it was the New Beginning USA tour, they had a lot of the PWX guys come and help out. And one day, Ethan Case, my trainer, was like, so we had just finished a class because I hadn't graduated at that point. We're finishing up the class, and he was like, hey, raise your hands if you want to go help out at this New Japan show in Atlanta. And everybody did, of course, because we're very much taught to hop on any and every opportunity, especially one like that. And so we all went to help out and do crew stuff and things like that, help with production. And while I was helping at the autograph sessions with FinJuice, I got called away from that. And they were like, hey, can you be the grip for the cameraman? And basically the grip is the guy that holds the cord right behind the cameraman so he doesn't like trip over and stuff. And at one point, it was when Lance Archer was still with the company. Okay. And he would come out and he would beat up all people around the ring, and I was one of those people. So that was kind of how I got to do that. And it's like just one of the coolest things ever.
That's pretty cool. Now, I probably didn't ask you this question in some version, and it's like I apologize for saying I keep asking some goofy questions. That I don't mean to. I just know how to ask the right question or not. But it's like, when you're in the ring and you're like, when a match goes too long, or I don't know how long, like, do y'all have an estimate time for most of your matches? Do you have like a basic rule for how long matches go? Just like, we got 10 minutes or you got 5 minutes, or are you instructed to do so to let them know how many minutes or something?
Basically with that, usually with a lot of the shows I work, there's a big talent meeting before the shows.
Okay.
And they run down the match card, basically what they want from each match in the show and things like that. That includes like how long they're supposed to go, like 10 to 12 or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for all the companies I work for, I wear an earpiece.
Okay, that's why I was going to ask you that. I'm glad you said it. Yeah, I was going to be curious about that.
Yeah, so I have someone in my ear telling me how much time they have left, and I just kind of relay it to them while we're doing our thing,
Okay. Now, this may not even like a thing that even like would even register. You might have seen it. Back in the day, I don't think it's even a thing now, but back in the day, if a heel was to get heat, and sometimes a babyface too, wherever someone might be crazy, have you ever had an incident where you might have to check somebody in the audience who got a little too carried away?
Carried away in what way?
Like you say, they climb over the gate, or through the net, or through the ropes, or whatever, and get too a little excited and try not necessarily to hit someone, but at least put their hands on where you're like you're too close there, buddy. You need to back up some.
Fortunately, thankfully, I haven't had to deal with a situation like that yet.
Okay, that's cool
I
though.
hope that I don't have to.
I hope so too.
But in that situation, I have to keep in mind that one of my biggest priorities, I would say my biggest priority in the ring, is to keep the wrestler safe.
Yeah.
And so back in the day, it wouldn't be uncommon to see someone jump in the ring and they get shit beat.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry if I.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I'm a grown man. I can handle curse words.
So, but nowadays we live in kind of a different world where
exactly.
You can get in a lot of trouble for that.
Yeah, that's true though. A lot of cameras around.
So, but at the same time, I don't know that fan intention. I don't know if they're coming in there to hurt somebody. I don't know if they have weapons.
That's true. That's true.
What I would do personally is I would restrain them, get them on the ground until security could come out and handle it.
That's cool. Yeah.
I would avoid punching them or things like that because that can create problems.
Yeah, you would subdue them. You would not necessarily try to hurt them, but you would subdue them.
Yeah, absolutely. Just long enough for security to come handle it, and to make sure that the wrestlers are safe, and even that the fan is safe, because we don't want even though that jumps into the ring, which nobody should do ever. Because there are a lot of shows that will still probably beat the shit out of you.
Oh yeah, definitely. They'll put your hands on. They'll put their hands on you. No doubt about it. Hey, side note, real quick, and you probably remember this because it's not even old. It's like a couple years ago. Do you remember when on do you have WWE Live? If you don't have it, you've probably seen it on YouTube. But you remember the last Hall of Fame when Bret Hart was up with his niece and he was giving a speech about, I think they were inducting the Hart Foundation, and he was in the middle of his speech and some guy had jumped in the ring and tried to tackle him. Man, you talk about the ass whooping he took. Oof.
Yeah, I do remember that, and that's honestly a perfect example of it still being a thing that happened. But for me, and the benefit of any company I'm working with, I would try not to hurt the fan. Yeah. Because then that can come back on the company, and
it could.
I wouldn't want that to happen,
Yeah.
I have the company's and the workers' best interest in my mind.
That's cool though. I mean, that's wise because you don't need that kind of hassle. But you're I'm assuming you're much younger than me, and so if you grew up in the Attitude Era, you won't even like this is a thing. You can go on YouTube and look at any of these kind of incidents where things happen. But supposedly, a guy named what was his name? I forget what his name. Dr. D. David Schultz. He was like,
oh yeah, David Schultz, where he
yeah,
the shit out of that reporter.
oh yeah. But he tells the story. He says that the guy was antagonizing him and saying all kind of crazy stuff, and he warned him. He warned him ahead of time. He said even as Vince McMahon said, if you got to hit him, hit him. But he said that all this stuff was going down, and he said that his tone kind of rubbed him the wrong way. So when he asked that question, that was already building up to him getting slapped. It wasn't like he probably was already offended, but it's the stuff he said prior to what was aired. He said a lot of stuff was said. It was so disrespectful. So he asked the basic question. That's when he got slapped. I'm not even saying it was the right thing to do, and it clearly was not a smart thing because he doesn't have a career in wrestling after that. I think he got blackballed because of it. So it wasn't a smart thing. But and I'm not defending David Schultz of things because you should never put your hands on him. But that guy had to see that coming. His tone, the way someone's standing towards you, and their chest is out, and they look in fury like hellfire of rage. I would have stopped talking. I wouldn't have even finished the question. I said, "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to offend you." Because you know when someone's going to hit you sometimes, and he had to see it. So I'm not saying that he should have gotten knocked out, but he should have saw that coming.
But also that was at a time before kayfabe was broken, and
yeah,
you said that F word and it was fucking over, you know, like they didn't play with that shit back then.
No,
like now it's fine. Like your podcast here, I'll say it's fake because it is.
Yeah.
But back then it wasn't. It was a big no-no.
I think it's the reason. It's not so much the fake. It's like you're looking at someone saying your career is a joke. I think it's how they took it. They took it as like, this is my livelihood, and I worked my hardest to basically create this persona and this persona in the ring, and I worked really hard. So by saying it's fake to them, to me, I'm just talking on my ass. You don't have to listen. You don't like take it for granted. So I took it as you're insulting my livelihood, so I have to snatch your spine out.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of that, and a little bit of like their job was and still is to make people think it's real. That it's a real fight. It's a real contest. That's where the magic is. And if back then, if you didn't, I guess, prove it to someone to say it was fake by fighting them more or less, that kind of proved the point that it was fake. I mean, you hear those stories of Haku.
Oh yeah.
Destroying people over that.
That's a bad dude, though. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a different time now. It's funny how it progressed, because now you'll still occasionally get the people that are like, they get kind of upset when you call it fake, but I mean,
yeah, it's dumb.
I think I personally think that's silly.
It is silly. It's
because it's
entertainment.
Contest. And to me, it's more of art than anything.
Yeah.
It's theater.
It's entertainment. It's sports entertainment. It's
athletic theater. And sports entertainment. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. You know, most sports are supposed to be entertaining anyway. It's supposed to be taken too personal.
Because I was trained by people that were coming up when the Indies first started popping off with all that. I would call it. It was like a new age of wrestling, kind of, in like the early 2000s. And where they really changed the game, you know.
That's cool.
from that old Southern idealistic style.
Yeah, they used to change though.
And so it kind of goes hand in hand with me learning from people who literally changed the face of wrestling.
Cool.
To me having no issue saying like, hey, it's not real, it's whatever.
Yeah, it's entertainment. Sports and entertainment. It's supposed to be entertainment. Now,
but at the same time, that doesn't mean that I love it any less.
Exactly.
I'm passionate about it than someone who will defend it as real.
Yeah, you should be. I mean, you can see, you can have both ways. You can love it and appreciate the sport of it because it's athletic sport. It is very athletic and it's very psychology and it's anything, all things rolled up into one. It's not one thing, but you can also appreciate it. But realize it's predetermined. And now you grew up in the Attitude Era. Do you remember this story? I think it was in the beginning of Attitude, right before it. I don't know when Attitude technically started. I don't know. A lot of people say different things, but when Big Van Vader was going for the championship, I guess he was fighting Undertaker. I don't remember what he was doing, but he went to Kuwait or went to some Middle Eastern part of the country, and he had an interview with some little dude who was like a little, Muslim, some kind of reporter, and it was him and the Undertaker. And Undertaker was in kayfabe. He wasn't hamming it up, but Vader was taking it way too far, and I think he took the reporter's question as disrespect. It's like the reporter doesn't know anything. He doesn't realize you're playing a character. He thinks you're being real, and he's trying to ask you a question, but he took it the wrong way, and he grabs him by his shirt. And that's the thing we saw on YouTube, on TV. But what the story was later, he almost didn't make it out. You don't put your hands on officials over there or anyone over there. They do not play like that.
Yeah, I'm going to a prison over there for a while.
Oh yeah, they want to snatch his ass up.
If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong on this because it's been a while since I've heard the story. If I'm not mistaken, I think someone told Vader backstage really turn it up,
They probably did. Someone probably was dumb to tell him that.
And he was under the impression that the interviewer was kind of in on it.
Yeah. No.
But he wasn't?
No, he wasn't. Highly pissed because it's a different country, and it's different rules for different places, and this is biblical. This is like a biblical area. This is like where the first man supposedly walked on earth. So their belief structure is stuck in an old-fashioned way of thinking. So it's like they don't see their persona. They see as a crazy man jumping up and grabbing. It's like, dude, you're from America. You're not even from this country. You're not going to put your hands on someone. Hey, guess what, big boy? You're not leaving now. You're lucky we're going to get you chop your head off because he's lucky he made it out of there. That was an insane story.
It's just one of those crazy nights in wrestling, I suppose.
Yeah. But yeah, so you grew up in the Attitude Era. Do you remember how do you think, what sparked the Attitude Era in your opinion? I'm asking, what do you think that, as they say Stone Cold, some people actually say Goldust. Who do you think sparked the Attitude Era? What do you think is the ignition that made this the badass era forever?
I want to say probably the Steve Austin when he did the Austin 316 thing at King of the Ring.
Okay, I can see. Yeah,
I think that's the real starting point in my mind.
Yeah, I can see that because he was the era of, he will always be a heel even though he's like a likable heel. His persona never changed, and he was the catalyst. A lot of people say he's the catalyst. Some people say Goldust, and some people will say DX or whatever. There's no wrong answer. They're all right answers. It's just how it would stand out to you. Because some people actually said Goldust was actually the guy, and I don't remember him in that era. I remember him later with him doing weird stuff, draping baby diapers and whatever. But I don't remember him in that era. But in a way, you can kind of say him a little bit, but I don't know. But I say there's no wrong answer. There's only right answers. There are right answers.
Yeah, and Goldust was definitely there around the time. I think Goldust came in at like 5 or so.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing his weird stuff even back then.
Yeah.
So I can see that point. And how androgynous he was and how he made people back then very uncomfortable.
Yeah, and that was his persona. But if you look at wrestling throughout the history of wrestling, if you go back in like George Hackensmith and all them people, there was always that character like Goldust. He may not have been like coming out in drag and like that, but there was a version of in a slightly effeminate, arrogant, pompous, would dance around the ring and make people want to choke him.
And it worked.
Yeah, it did. That was the point.
But I will say one thing as far as the Steve Austin stuff goes.
Yeah.
That a lot of people would consider him, like you said, to be a heel for a lot of that early stuff. But I feel like when the tide started to turn after King of the Ring,
yeah,
I feel like he was more of a face because from what I've been told.
Yeah.
If you come out and you get booed, you're a heel.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what your character was or what the storylines are. You're a heel if you go out and get booed. You're a baby face if you go out and get cheered.
Yeah.
And like it depends on the crowd.
Yeah, it does change. It changes. It changes like this, and I think at one time they had a clear cut baby face and heel because a lot of times they would get angry and people would cheer the heel. But it's like sometimes I think the heel does better in the crowds is because he comes off sometimes, and it sounds like this is going to sound like complete horseshit. And I want you to know that I'm just a fan. I don't know what I'm talking about. So take it with a grain of salt. I'm not saying this from a base of knowledge, so this is clean nonsense. But I always noticed that a lot of heels now are more respected is because of their attitude. And I'm not talking about the arrogant ones. I'm talking about the one. I'll give you an example. Here's a perfect example. And now people say this. She became a babyface immediately afterwards, but I always felt she still had heel bitterness. Is Becky Lynch, and Becky Lynch was like the quintessential babyface. She was Charlotte Flair's best friend. She was basically the Marty Jannetty to Shawn Michaels' Charlotte Flair, and she worked her ass off the entire year. I mean, she broke her back to get to that championship ring, to get that belt. And at the last minute, Charlotte Flair gets put into the ring, into the match. So it made a triple threat. To the point I forgot that Sasha Banks was even in the match. I don't remember that. I just remember the ending. And I remember that after she got up and she was like, shake my hand. I'm like, shake your hand? Why would I shake your hand? You stole something from me. And she stomped her. And then the next day she gives her heel speech, but it was like, we don't want to cheer. We don't want to boo you. We wanted you to do this for a long time. So you can look at it as she was a heel for 2 seconds and immediately became a babyface, maybe. Yes, you can say it that way. But that's a good example. I say like a person who we want to cheer for you, but you're making it hard for us to do that.
Yeah, and it's like as soon as she came out the next night and she got cheered, babyface,
Yeah.
It's like, and it's funny because like you'll see a lot of people ask the question, or at least I have, like in private, like they're trying to get better, like, and that's how you get better, by asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen a lot of people ask, like, what if I'm coming out and I'm supposed to be babyface and they bully, like, what do I do to get them back on my side? But switch it up, because at that point you're a heel. Just be a heel at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you read the crowd. That's nothing. I guess you would see that too. You know the psychology. What do you consider your psychology in wrestling? What is yours? And there's no wrong answer because I wouldn't know anyway. So, what is your idea of?
To me, that's all about taking what is a scripted fight and making it look like, making it as real as possible.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out the best way to put this.
It's all good.
So it's like you have this match laid out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really about the little things to make it while you're in the ring. Like if I sell this way, that would make more sense because of this reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's about making it more realistic to as if you were in a real fight.
Okay, that's cool. I like that.
But it's about making the stuff you do make sense, because when it makes sense, the fans buy into it.
Yeah, sure they do. It has to be believable to them too. They have to be able to believe that this matters. This match has to matter.
Because if you're having a match and you do something that doesn't make sense, like that psychology, and the fan picks up on that, and they're like, well, you got Frank in the crowd going, well, hey, why the fuck did he do that?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Might as well take it home, because at that point you lost the match. They remember the mistakes.
Yeah, no. You have to care. You have to care. It's like, to me, it's like an action movie. Well, not even an action movie, just any movie. If any movie where the people in the movie are not doing what they're supposed to, you don't even care what's going on, and it doesn't have any meaning to it, then it's just boring. It's like this is just plain nonsense. And if it's a wrestling match, especially a wrestling match that you're at, especially a wrestling match that you're watching, not even at home, but in the crowd, and you're up front, and you can see everything. The person up front will probably see more than anyone probably, and is aware of, well, you're just going through the motions of selling and hitting and not really caring, and you're just jumping around the ring doing a bunch of goofy nonsense. It's like, why did I pay for this? This is nonsense. So it has to matter. Even the person in the front, as far as the back and the front, they have to like be enraged or passionate or upset or gleefully like, I can't believe this is the greatest thing in the world. It shouldn't matter.
And it all goes hand in hand with kind of stringing these little things together to make everything make sense, to make everything matter. Because when it matters, the fans are going to care about it. And when they care about it, they're going to buy more tickets. They're going to buy your merch.
Most definitely.
Things like that. Because at the end of the day, it's a business.
Yeah, it is. It's called it's show business, or a business before a reason. The word business is part of it. You got to make money. That's the most. You want to be able to make. Now, like, what is the criteria? I'm gonna ask you first. What is the criteria for a heel? What is the persona of you that makes a great heel? What do you think makes a great heel?
I don't think there is a specific criteria. I think you just gotta, because what works for one person really well might not work at all.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think you just gotta figure out kind of these bad parts of yourself that people hate, and turn that shit up to 11, because it's got to be you, and it's got to have that little bit of it's got to be a little bit of like genuine you in there.
Okay.
And once you turn that up, then you kind of figure out what works best for you on an individual basis.
Mm-hmm.
then you got it. You know, I don't think that there's a very specific thing that makes a great heel or a babyface. I feel like it's the same thing with a babyface. You gotta find out the things about you that people really like and turn that up. You know.
That's cool. Yeah. What is your favorite? I'm gonna say this, but I don't know how to ask. What is the coolest match you've got to be in the ring with? What is your favorite match so far you've enjoyed being part of?
Oh, that's a hard one.
I know that could be very vague. It's hard to ask that question because it could be very vague. You can say any match. Even you probably have tons of matches.
It's not vague, I wouldn't say. It's just I've done so many that I've had so much fun with, and to be honest, man, a lot of my favorite matches weren't in front of the crowd. They were like practice matches, training.
Okay.
And like one big one that stands out to me was a practice match, and that was Barbara versus Anthony Henry. And man, it was a banger. And then another one was also a practice match in training. That was Jesse Barton against Cody Blossman, which was incredible. Like main event level stuff, just in front of nobody but Stevens.
That's so
but
cool.
my favorite one on an actual show would probably. Probably Ethan Case versus Drew Hood at James Johnson's Ground Zero shows.
Okay.
And they run out of North Carolina. Yeah, that was a good one because it told a story.
That's cool.
And it was fun.
All right, that's pretty cool. I like that. It's always just curious because, like, everyone has a different answer because, you don't. If you do a lot of matches over the years and like whatnot, there's going to be like a lot of matches. Because like it's hard to answer that question. It's like like what's your favorite meal? Like I don't know what that is. I don't know how to answer that question either. Because it's like I ate a lot of things, so I don't. You can tell me. I can tell you what my last thing I ate though, and that was delicious. But that's a hard question to ask at times. So I understand that question is like.
And for me, I feel like it's a little easier because I haven't been doing this a long time. I've been doing this I officially debuted last September. I was supposed to debut last March, but then the whole world shut down.
Yeah, that sucked. That really. And also, I want to add this that like I said, I haven't been doing this for very long, so a lot of like what I'm saying is either from personal experience or from the people that have mentored me and taught me. That's
and
cool.
I've been lucky enough to have a lot of great teachers, people that have worked for New Japan, people that have worked for WWE or currently work for WWE.
That's cool though.
And yeah, I mean, I truly believe I've been trained and mentored by the best of them.
That's all right though. That's cool. Like to me, it's like this: you're doing something that people just talk about. I would rather hear. I don't care if it's your first day, the first hour. I would rather hear it from a person who's used to get on the mat and attempt to do the job, as opposed to someone who's watched it for 30 years and saying like, "Well, all the things that you don't know what you're talking about. You've never done it. You've never been in the mat. You've never trained. You've never." Been in back there in any shows or any shows whatsoever. The opinion means nothing, but I would rather hear your opinion as opposed to someone who just watches forever. Because at least I'll give you props, and I don't care if it was your first week. You got in there and you made it happen, and that's commendable regardless.
Yeah, it's like any business, like say you deliver pizzas, right?
Yeah.
There are going to be people that never like dealt with pizza on a professional level a day in their lives, and they're going to have opinions on it,
Yeah.
It's just like everything, I think.
Yeah.
Everybody has an opinion about everything.
Yeah.
and that's completely okay, you know.
Yeah,
At least
it's
if
cool.
I
It's
can,
cool.
but for me, it's like I worked hard for this. I'm
Yeah.
gonna continue. I'm gonna continue for that because there is no scenario in my head to where I don't get signed to a major company, and I'm working
Cool.
my ass off to make that a reality.
Awesome. That's awesome. I guess pretty cool. Now, like before before I go, I want to ask you two more things because first of all, thank you again for letting me do this, and I really appreciate this. But like, I'm just going to ask you, like, do you have anything coming up that you like, to go to shout out or anything? It doesn't matter, whatever it is. You want to YouTube or whatever, it doesn't matter.
Any shows?
Just anything you got cool going on.
Oh, I got a lot of shows coming up. We got one show coming up. I want to say, okay, if I double check right now so I don't get the wrong date.
Yeah, go ahead. Just check it. Just take your time.
It is March 12th, and PWS is holding the big show, and it's going to be a double show too because we're also doing Eddie Kingston's Grindhouse.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Which I don't know if you know anything about that, but it's like the guys that do the WWN live stuff.
Okay.
Who used to be heavily involved with Full Impact Pro and all before.
Okay.
They closed their doors.
Okay.
And so it's a lot of great talent that goes. They go through both PWX and Grindcore.
Okay.
Or not Grindcore, Grindhouse, excuse me. Grindcore is kind of music.
It's all good. It's all good.
I got the Viral Pro Wrestling show coming up soon. I'm just going to shout out companies at this point because I have so many dates in my brain and I forget.
Okay.
So if you're that one's going to be in Thompson, Georgia. So if anybody's near that wants to check it out, it's going to be a great show. It's their first show back.
Mm-hmm.
No PCW shows at the moment, but I'm hoping we come back soon. But yeah, that's all I think. That's the big one.
That's cool. Yeah, man, I appreciate it, man. This is really awesome, and I hope you get to just talk again, some down the line, soon, hopefully, just talk wrestling. That would be fun, is to sit here and talk about wrestling. Doesn't matter what era, and because you have a good perspective on wrestling, way better than I would probably have. So I would like to hear what's your perspective of any attitude or the ruthless aggression or even prior to that. That'd be fun. New Japan, anything. I think that'd be cool. So thank you again for this allowing me to interview you.
Thank you, Evan. And in the future, man, don't try to downplay yourself. You may not have ever been in a ring, but you're passionate about this. And,
Thanks, man.
You're passionate about your interviews and wanting them to be good. So
thanks, I appreciate it, man.
Just because you've never been in a ring doesn't mean that you're not qualified to talk with the people that have on the same level.
I appreciate it, man.
You keep killing it out here. You keep getting these great interviews.
Cool.
Get that fucking podcast out there, bro.
All right, man. Appreciate it, man.
I want to succeed. I want you to succeed.
Thanks, man. Me too. That's all right, man. I appreciate it, man. All right, man. But I'll hit you up later.
All right, sounds good, man. You have a good day.
You too, man. Thank you. See ya. This is a pretty cool interview, and I'm really proud of this one. I'm not proud of all of them. Jesse Chapman, it was a really cool dude to talk to him, and hopefully down the line we get to talk again because he's a really cool guy, and all tongue-tied and jibber-jabber. But he's a really cool guy, and hopefully to see him down the line again. This is another episode of a Nerds Podcast, and, better and better each time I do this thing, so I'm just going to sign out. That's it. Boom.